Hello and welcome to Disability in Screenwriting Workshop. This is one of our workshops that we do every week. We alternate between script writing, screenwriting even, and novel writing. This is our screenwriting workshop, and don't tell WordCamp, this is my preferred workshop. Let's just go through the same stuff we always go through. I forgot to share my screen to Discord. Oh boy. Give me a second. There's just one thing I want to show you as a disclaimer. There we go. So yeah, where's my PowerPoint? There we go. Great start, isn't it? If you do want to have the camera on, you are more than welcome to. Yeah, this is our disability and screenwriting workshop. Essentially, I'm going to simplify all of this because, long story short, disabilities don't get represented well in the media, and that can really damage some people. And so we want to change that, and this workshop is one of the ways we can do that. Anyone can be disabled. Often, if you look in the media, it tends to be white people who are disabled. Like, I can think of very few black disabled people or Asian disabled people. I can't, off the top of my head, think of one single Asian disabled person. There probably is somewhere, but not one I can think of. And disability is the only minority can finally become a part of. So yeah, 20% of the world are disabled, and that's not even nearly represented in the media, which is why we're here to try and get disability spoken about more in the media. It is slowly happening, but slowly, so we want it to happen quicker. We ask that everyone is respectful to everyone. We won't tolerate insults, and we also welcome questions. Just be respectful around that. If you want the script read, then we ask that you have given helpful feedback somewhere else on the server. And we're all here to learn and improve, and so make sure you're open-minded. There are 5 types of disability: physical, intellectual, sensory, mental health, and hidden disabilities. All are welcome. Welcome able-bodied and disabled people alike. It's every Saturday, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. British. We're looking at screenplays today. Next week, we'll be in WordCamp looking at novels primarily, but any other type of media, comics, fan fictions, whatever type of media you want to share. This is the most important bit of the slideshow. This is our disclaimer. This is a safe space for us to talk about all aspects of disability. There's nothing off the table. And so we will be discussing, there's the possibility that we'll be discussing sensitive and potentially triggering topics, such as mental health, addiction, trauma, and abuse. We might talk about surgery and get into, like, quite gory or, stuff like that. We may do, we may not. And so if at any point you feel it's getting a bit heavy for you, you're more than welcome to leave without needing to explain yourself. Because your mental health and your emotional well-being always take priority over your attendance. So yeah. We'll start by doing my favorite part of the workshop, and that is just opening it up to anyone who has any questions or anyone need any help with their disabled characters or anything like that.
You know the fairy thing I keep bringing up? It's like a fairy without wings.
Yes.
Don't know if he was born without them or if it was an accident. I'm not sure yet. But I worry in trying to write that script that people will bring up, well, why doesn't this fairy have wings? Like, what's his story? And like, how does that develop throughout when didn't really mean to make it part of the narrative. It's just like a trait that he has.
Okay.
But have you guys run anything like that?
Yes, most definitely. That that kind of question is kind of often on my mind when I came up with my character Poppin' Jay, as well as Limerick, who is an amputee. And I have purposely avoided answering those kinds of questions. I know their stories. I know what happened. But even though I've had that question asked many a time, I avoid answering it because it's completely irrelevant to the plot. It is important for like Poppin' Jay's origin story, but it is irrelevant to like the series and her interactions with anyone else. Knowing someone's disability is for our own curiosity. That is about we want to know because we want to know, but it makes no difference on us on I guess who someone is, or I mean it does, but we just want to know someone's origin story because we want to know their origin story. It should not change our perception of the person, the character, whatever. The question is absolutely going to come up. And I guess as a writer, you have to figure out how you're going to deal with it. I've wanted my like Poppin' Jay's personality to come through. And then I did like plan like kind of a reveal of how it actually happened. But yeah, if it's important to the story and to the I don't know, their history, their world, whatever, then I think you should include it. If it is completely irrelevant to the character or to the story, then don't include it. People don't have to know what someone's backstory is. That's my opinion on it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, even I do the same thing. I'm a regular at hospital, and so I know a lot of medical things. You know, if people ask me about a specific medical condition, I've always got something to say because I know so much. And again, that goes off of what Willow was saying about curiosity. So I personally do like to know all of the medical details and the diagnosis and how it was sustained and all of this sort of thing. And actually, Willow reminds me quite often. Actually, there's more to a disabled person than their medical history, because I forget that even sometimes. But yeah, as it's up to you, as Willow was saying, it's up to you how you decide to take it. If you want to make it a medical drama, obviously the important bit is the medical stuff. But if otherwise, a disabled person is still a person, and their disability is an aspect of them, not the only bit of them. So yeah, it's a difficult balance to work out. How much do you acknowledge the disability, and how much do you ignore it to some extent? I'm not sure if that ignore is even the right word. But yeah. And I would give you a better answer, except I've not worked out the balance yet myself.
Well, thank you. And like, even as it affects his life during the story. Today we're talking about the fairy thing, fairy mermaid thing.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, the fact that he can't fly is never like part of the narrative or anything. I think the only way it really affects the story is that maybe he's teased by some bullies about it, but those are just inconsiderate assholes, and like they might be present towards the beginning, but outside of that, like, it has nothing to do with anything. So it's not really a struggle he has to overcome. It's just he's content with himself the way he is. So I was concerned that I'm not sure if anyone's explicitly asked it yet, but I will sometimes get questions about characters with like, well, why this trait? How does this serve the story? Which for some things, like, you know, have something to do with it, but other times, like, it's just being a part of a minority demographic, like, they are just that way. Because people are just that way. So. Well, yeah, thank you for your answers, guys.
That's a good point. You can make a character disabled, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with the storyline. They're just disabled because people are disabled. And I think that's what the media is recognizing at the moment. It's like, so in the UK, I'm not sure if it's in America, but in the UK, we have a lot of TV adverts where people are disabled, and some people are like, why have a disabled person? Well, actually, why not have a disabled person? There's no disadvantage to having one in an advert. They're in what's her name? Candice Owens. This is quite controversial at the moment. So she's a podcaster. I've never heard of her before recently. She's a podcaster who was upset that a disabled model, a wheelchair user, was, yeah, my reaction too, was modeling underwear for disabled people. And the, yeah, there was not a backlash because it was clear that she didn't know what she was talking about. Because actually, that underwear was helpful. Yeah, I don't know why she put herself into that business, but she did. um, and yeah, disabled people are just as much a target to advertising as anyone else. Did that come out right? That sounded really weird as I said that. But you know, there are products for disabled people, and so disabled people need to know they exist just as much as able-bodied people need to know stuff for able-bodied people exists. Is what I'm trying to say. I went on a tangent there, but yeah. Nacho, I saw you unmute earlier. Did you want to say something earlier, or?
Yeah, I just posted a log line for feedback.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Before we do that, Ray, does that answer your question, or did you want something to follow up?
Yeah, you guys gave some good answers. So yeah, thank you for discussing it.
Cool. No worries.
I'd like to add something as well that I have learned through my writing. A person's disability is, how can I say, it becomes more of an issue when around like strangers. It's kind of dependent on environment. So again, I will use my character Popinjay as an example. When she is at home, living her life, and so while she may do things differently, it's just normal for her in that environment, and it's not seen as anything weird, and that's just the way she is. When she experiences something new or is around strangers or some kind of a new experience, that's kind of when her disability becomes more prevalent and it becomes an actual thing. So it depends on also the people and the environment. If that's just the way you know someone, then it's not anything different or unusual. But yeah, if it's a strange setting, strange people, yeah. So anyway, that's what I've learned and the way that I've been writing.
Yeah, and I think that's true to real life as well. I don't think about my disability much until I meet new people either. So, yeah. Welcome, Polly, and I thought someone else had joined. I don't see them, but yeah, welcome, Polly. Yeah, let's take a look at Nacho's logline then. It's in the chat if you scroll up just a bit. Does anyone want to read it?
Logline says, the van, when her abusive ex-husband attacks during a wilderness camping trip, a paraplegic vlogger must outsmart him using her van's security system to survive.
Okay, thank you, Gray. Okay, any first thoughts on that then?
I do. I think it's fine as it is. The van security system is kind of weird to me. I'm not sure what that means. I picture a van security system and I'm picturing the alarm kind of thing. But or is it like some kind of a robotic thing where it's got robotic arms that can move around and like it's an extension of something? I'd like a little bit more clarity on what a van security system is. Other than that, I think good.
Yeah, that was one of the things that was throwing me a bit. Because I pictured a CCTV thing. Like, CCTV doesn't seem to be that defensive, or, and how is it that we're going to outsmart them with CCTV?
Is it like a Home Alone thing?
Oh, that would be quite cool.
How to booby trap a van. Oh,
Yeah.
that would be fun.
The other point that I wanted to know is I wanted another adjective for the for a vlogger, so something to tell us about their personality. Are they cunning? Are they street smart? Are they, I don't know, just another word to describe the paraplegic vlogger.
Maybe they're artistic and they trap you through their beautiful Home Alone art. I don't know. I wanna see them be creative.
There's a lot of different types of vloggers. And so is it a makeup vlogger or a book vlogger? So some kind of description like that will tell us what kind of person they are and what they're into.
Using her van security system. Is it like a home vlogger? You just vlog your home and your travel vlogger. There we go.
Yeah, that's what I was picturing.
It's like a van life. It's like her life.
Yeah,
is
van
just
life.
living in the van. She travels around.
Cool. So she's got a little bit
That's
of a adventurous, or a bit of an adventurous spirit. Okay.
Yeah, like, driving her van around and, finding ways to, like, wash her clothes and just do the normal things, but living in a van.
Mm.
And
different
going out into the
adaptations you
wilderness.
need. You can
Is she
show
like
a little bit.
is she a bit like a engineering type? Cause like everyone is picturing CCTV, but like I imagine she has more like security procedures. So like is she sort of, did she make them herself or did she just buy them, put them together? I'm curious. I'm just curious. I don't think it relates much to anything.
I find it funny. So Joel and Lasagna were picturing like CCTV, and I'm picturing like some kind of a transformer.
No, like I wasn't picturing CCTV. I thought that was what you guys were picturing, but I was picturing like just Home Alone contraptions, like a bunch of things like
Mhm.
glued together
Like
or
maybe the
whatever the fuck.
door, somebody they touch the handle and it shocks the guy or something.
Yeah, I was just picturing like just silly security things.
Well, if it's in a van, does that mean we're going to get car chases?
Oh yeah,
Mm.
important question.
Wheelchair chasers.
Wheelchair chase.
That
That
would
He
makes
be
more
steals her
sense.
van and she has to chase him on her wheelchair.
be a dragster.
Carl, mecha vlogger. Whoa, man. Are we set in the future? Can we have a mecha vlogger?
Yeah. And a travel vlogger. Cool. Yeah, I think for a lockdown this is good. What genre are you picturing this? Is this like a thriller or a drama or
Yeah, thriller. It's a thriller.
okay. Okay, so this is a revised version. When her abusive ex-husband attacks during a wilderness camping trip, a paraplegic lifestyle vlogger must outsmart him using her van's unique security system to survive. Okay, so there's nothing quite like it. Cool. I would say maybe don't say lifestyle because lifestyle to me sounds more laid back rather than adventurous. Maybe it's more of a travel vlog. I think is what we were thinking it was.
So one thing she would have in her van, especially if she's living alone, she's paraplegic, she would probably have a lot of adaptations to her van.
Mm.
Something like if she's a traveler and she loves to like go off-roading, she might very well have an off-road wheelchair specifically for that.
Ooh, I love it. Yeah.
Which
And also,
maybe it's like she presses a button and like the wheels go.
it depends on how
how rich she is.
Maybe she's modified the wheelchair to have like little traps and stuff if the guy chases her.
she would
Oh.
definitely have some kind of a self-defense thing. I think pretty much any woman traveling alone would absolutely have like some kind of a self-defense plan or something, or take precautions.
Mm.
Being disabled, she would probably doubly have protections.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel like she's kind of like just really, really smart. Like Judea said, like maybe sort of like an engineer, like almost basically like I mean, kind of like Batman, but like, you know, realistic, right? Like, I don't know, like, this is seems cool. Yeah, I mean, the idea is to make something like very low budget, so we can't have like a lot of special effects and stuff. But I think there's some cool, yeah, lots of cool ideas. Thanks.
Yeah. I'm trying to find an image for off-road wheelchairs. Because
I know one.
there's a well, okay, that's just straight up clickbait. So there's like if you have a manual chair, which they probably would have, you would probably get like there's this big wheel at the front, and it attaches to the frame, and that can be powered, and it helps because you have those small wheels in front of a chair called casters, and they can get stuck on literally every single crack, every single stone. So you have this big wheel that you put in front, to take those caster wheels out of the equation. So actually, this ban would be full of a lot of adaptations and stuff. It's to some extent, it's yeah. This is the kind of clickbait I was getting. I've never seen anything like that in real life. But I lost my train of thought. Image.
What was it?
Oh, so I remember what I was going to say. So with all of these adaptations, it's difficult enough to have the space anyway. For an able-bodied person to fit everything into a van, but as a wheelchair user who's very active, there's so many adaptations and so many, like the hoist takes up a lot of space in itself, not just for the wheelchair but for the person to get around. I don't know how to get around, or whatever. So there's a lot to think about logistically.
She probably needs a lot of power too, right? Like solar panels and stuff.
That's a good point. How she get power her equipment?
Like maybe the whole top of the van opens up like a big giant solar panel or something.
Yeah. I mean, this is the cool thing about movies. This wouldn't be practical in a lot of the world, because you would then be absolutely reliant on solar power to live your life.
Well, what if and when the ex-husband attacks, it's like a cloudy day, and she runs out of juice.
Yeah.
Be hybrid. So, something to consider if she's got all this kind of specialized equipment. So I posted a picture that is called not a wheelchair, and one of my favorite YouTubers was gifted one of this to review. They run about $25,000. Any kind of medical equipment or adjustment is going to be majorly expensive. So that is something
maybe she
to consider.
Maybe she designs them or something, or like she sells those kind of, or she's like
absolutely.
Yeah. Or maybe she sort of built it herself or something.
Yeah, maybe that's like her day job to be making these sorts of things. Because I know of someone who retired and then started adapting power chairs for power chair football, and now sells them for a living. So, yeah. And goes all across the country to sell his chairs. So yeah, maybe that's what she does, and as she travels to sell her product, she's traveling and as a travel vlogger, So maybe the two go together.
And it does make sense, like the engineering kind of thing fits. She would have to be constantly like adjusting or repairing her chair. Just a variety of things. Like I've seen those van videos, and like they're doing a lot of tinkering to fix things. And wheelchairs are also something that break, or they need some like adjustment here or there. So she would probably be really good at that kind of stuff.
Do you think there are other kind of special tools or something she might design for the wilderness, for camping, for, you know, like, I mean, I guess if her van can get almost anywhere, she can kind of like camp inside the van, but maybe she goes on to like, you know, climb a mountain or, you know, or like, you know, something that she might need, like a little kind of a tent or something that she might design for.
Yeah, I mean, you'd need like a
wilderness.
You probably need a storage system of some kind, because you know, if you go hiking, you've got a massive backpack. You know, where would that go in a wheelchair?
And maybe like the tent that can sort of like set up electronically or something, or like maybe it's like attached to the wheelchair.
I don't know if you want to
Like
do
a
this, but
trailer.
she might also have a dog particularly like to help pick from the floor.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
I mean, sadly, I think the ex-husband's going to kill the dog, maybe. But yeah, there's definitely a dog.
Oh,
he just it disappears, and then they find him later.
I think that we should conduct a manhunt and kill this guy. You don't hurt that. You do not hurt the dog.
Yeah, I agree.
Psychopath. But not only do you shut them, you kill the dog.
Probably a highly trained service dog.
Yeah, he might just sort of like go missing, and then
That's right, Greg. So that sounds like sounds fun. Oh. Emotional spoilers for movies, TVs, and books. Oh.
I'm trying to imagine if I was to go camping as a paraplegic. I'm not a paraplegic, but if I was, what equipment would I need to, to actually do this? It's interesting.
And then imagine like some of the equipment sort of like breaking down, or like this guy's hunting you in the forest or whatever.
Yeah. So when you first posted this logline, I was imagining it was quite a static movie, like it all happens inside the van, rather than the van moving.
I think most of it does, but there will be some like, parts where the van moves, or maybe like the guy like manages to knock the van, or the van, maybe it falls or wrecks in a ravine or something. I'm not sure exactly, but at some point she's got to be, out of the van in the wilderness. And I'm not sure exactly where, that happens, but a big part of it is just being like, almost like panic room, like just in the van with her dog or whatever, or maybe, what the guy's outside, but then, she's got to be like really outsmart this guy, yeah.
Sounds like a really cool project. Well, when you say the wilderness, what kind of terrain are you thinking? Are you thinking desert or?
Maybe like mountains and forest, could be desert, but probably someplace that seems like really hard to go on a wheelchair, right?
I mean, the forest is actually going outdoors anyway as a night, but the forest in particular is so slow progress because like your wheels get stuck on every single route, every single branch, everything. And so if it's wet ground as well, that makes it more difficult, and so there's a lot of things to consider. You know.
Yeah, to mention that, I was watching a thing where a guy was going to a Christmas tree lot, and it had rained the night before, and it was a gravel road. So between the mud and the gravel, he could not really get his wheelchair to maneuver on that. So it doesn't take much to stymie a wheelchair.
Yeah, it's I remember when I went on a holiday and there's a gravel car park, and we parked like 5-10 meters away from the door, and it just takes forever because you get stuck on every single stone. I was not particularly pleased that holiday. Yeah. It's cool. Sounds cool. I want to read it now. Yeah.
You got to write it first.
Get it done, Nacho. Cool.
Well, when you do have it, bring it here
Oh,
so we can read it.
100%, yeah. I'm gonna read the whole thing. Give it to me. Cool. Yeah. Alright, see you, Greg. Nice to have you here. See you tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.
Hey, Gray.
Hello.
Alright. Welcome, Jay. We were just talking about wheelchairs in the wilderness. Let me get Nacho's book line. There.
Like things I never definitely learning about wheelchairs and stuff. The simplest things that can, I don't know, upset a wheelchair, not upset, but tiny block a wheelchair, like carpet and rugs. My the YouTuber I watch, he will go on a freaking rant about carpet and rugs.
Yeah. Like, just the carpet. Like, forget stones, just the carpet makes it twice as hard to push as hard floor. So yeah, there's no way in the world that you can be going out in the world without adaptations. And also, if this is this can't be a new chair. The reason I say that is I have a relatively new chair, and I'm so protective of it. Like, if there's a tiny scratch on the wheel, I will be upset. So, like, this chair will have gone through the wars. It will be scratched. It won't be attractive. It won't be. For able-bodied people, it won't be attractive. It will be very attractive to me. But it be scratched, and it will be dirty and showing its age a little bit because it just gets put through so much. Yeah. I wonder if I'm the only wheelchair user who gets excited when they see other chairs. Who has crushes on other wheelchairs. welcome,
I-
Little Red.
Do you think she would give it a name, like call it something like Betty?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
Gigi.
I know that. Yeah, absolutely. I jokingly refer to my wheelchair as my boyfriend because I spend so much time with him. So you know, you absolutely
You
can.
charge your boyfriend.
I also say things that are not appropriate about my wheelchair, so I won't say them here. But yeah, I do have affectionate terms for my chair. Welcome, Little Red. Nice to have you here.
Oh, hi.
Hi, nice to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too.
This is the Disability and Screenwriter Workshop, essentially. We just talk about all things disability in the media. So we were just talking to Nacho about his log line and giving him feedback on that.
Okay.
So yeah. Is there anything you're working on?
I want to raise awareness about PTSD. I'm working actually on a character that is based off of like a female general, but the point is to raise a connection between climate change and also like women's abuse in the service. And I'm trying to raise awareness because I have PTSD. And I found that if you were military, you could get a lot of accommodations when I was at FIU, but I had problems getting some of my accommodations. I still needed them because I was a civilian. So I'm trying to point out things about what's gendered and like I'm doing this character though because I was thinking of making like a music video or doing something like that, but it's also just something I want to develop. And I've been doing some research at the military museum, but it's also really triggering for me. So I'm trying to like deal with that. I try to make posts sometimes about my experience. And then I kind of doubt myself because I'm not sure if it's working or it's just straining. Like it really strains me a lot, but I'm trying to point out things as well, like PTSD bias being really hard to deal with and feeling like it really blocked my life. Also, it's like an invisible disability.
Yeah.
So I've had problems with people, especially security guards. Like I was going to parks in my area this year and it was really helping me, but they were very aggressive. And if I get triggered by aggressive male behavior, especially, then they get more aggressive. So like if I get upset, then they get more aggressive toward me and it just kind of is easy for it to escalate.
Yeah.
So I feel like I have to kind of be isolated and hide from them. And I wanted to go there because I wanted to feel safer if I had security guards around, but then it's like the security guards were worse. So like when I've cried in public, people get very aggressive about it. It was really surprising to me, like how bad people actually are and in the way they respond. They're not very good at being empathetic. So I've actually had people that like when I cried when I was at this place I used to work with, it was a really beautiful historic site. But I was crying, I was depressed, and these people were being nice to me, but then the security guard was really aggressive and he started even saying things like he thought I was faking it. He thought it was a lie, like I'm just trying to manipulate people. And it's like, no, I'm really depressed. Like I don't need to be faking it. And people have all these weird ideas and they're very negative and it's like hard enough because I already feel affected by people attacking me and being abusive toward me. And it's just very dehumanizing. So I'm trying to like do something that's more empowering through a character because people are more engaged if it's a character and then it's like a project and they're more willing to listen or find it intriguing that you're making something. So I'm trying to work on that right now.
Yeah, that's good. absolutely, it's hard to write about a character that reflects you, particularly when you're talking about trauma and the things that you've been through. And to some extent, what happens is you start writing becomes therapy almost. I've found in my experience. You sort of dump, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, you dump your own trauma onto your character, and then that process becomes really triggering for you.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
I've been
difficult
trying to
thing.
like master it, but you're saying that might be too much, you think?
I I think
It,
that like I think it's a really important message, and if you think you can handle it without like it affecting you deeply in that way, then
Well,
I
it
say
does.
go for it.
mm.
Well, I mean, like,
Sometimes,
yeah, it affects you deeply, but as long as it doesn't make you like deeply, you know, like triggered or anything like that,
mm,
I wouldn't want you to like get um really upset over it,
yeah. What I
like that.
what I
Yeah,
would
that's the
say
hard
is,
thing.
mm, um, I think the important thing with this project would be to take it slow and take your time about it, and don't set any deadlines, or just sort of go with the flow. And if it's too heavy, then take a break. You don't have to say how long the break's going to be, but just take your time, because there's no point in rushing these things, because that only does harm, I would say. So yeah, take your time with it. Um, yeah, but it's good to have that representation. Um, and since you suffer with PTSD yourself, it's good that you are writing this character rather than letting someone who doesn't have the experience write it. And because what happens sometimes, people try to tell you how you feel and what you've experienced. So that's important.
Oh,
Yeah,
connection is unstable. Right. Oh, bye, Elliot. Elliot's already
um,
gone.
yeah, um, yeah. If you don't mind, if you're comfortable to, why don't you tell us a bit about your character?
Me?
Yeah, if you have anything you want help with, or you know,
Well, I have right now I'm kind of just trying to research some things, but I think it's also like I want to kind of I guess I've seen Sally Field and how she's done different characters, and she has a part of the character that kind of becomes part of her. So I guess I'm hoping that by portraying this or writing this, it'll help me as well to like have, I guess, greater mastery of trauma, as well as be able to kind of represent myself with more authority, because people are very disrespectful, and I've dealt with a lot of ageism in my life as well. I've always looked younger than my age, and it's really been very harmful the way people treat me. And I think especially being female, like it adds a whole other level to like the pedantic kind of behavior. But so what I have been trying to figure out about her is like right now I need to learn a lot about the military, because I have to figure out her position, and then I figure that will inform me a lot. But a lot of what is actually directing that is from my background dealing with like environmental issues and trying to campaign to raise awareness about things in the past. And now I feel like it became about me, because now it's like in the past I tried to stand up for things that were being abused in nature, and now I feel like I'm trying to stand up for myself. So I want to make a character that kind of embodies a point that I have about living in a culture that devalues the feminine aspect of humanity, and that when that's on such a systemic level, I've seen it have a really big fallout when it deals with what we value and what our decisions are. So, especially in the industrial military complex, I think that's very clear. I've studied rape culture a bit through taking sex trafficking at FIU, and it was really traumatic for me. I didn't even really finish the last assignment because the research was so hard on me. That I came from a background of doing research. So I guess at this point, my character I know is going to be informed by my life and the things that I want to point out about these connections with like silencing, whether it's like nature can't speak up for itself or the way stuff is structurally built. So like I don't have my own self being represented, or like there are these certain things like resilience, like there are key terms that I've seen a lot. So I already have kind of this research awareness and I just want to develop it more. And I want to interview a general that's a woman and sort of learn maybe from her mannerisms. But basically I've been thinking that she might, at one point I was thinking she might deal with a branch of like the CIA, because I want her to have a position of great power and authority, because the point is for me to show like a woman in leadership, and that it's addressing the things that need to be addressed that haven't been, because these are the things that have not been looked at, and it's like all connected to the way women are devalued, and the things associated with women is like a devalued thing in our society. So even in our mentality, in nurturance, behavior, things that are gentle, even softness. Also the other side of that, where it's like stereotyping women and flattening them and saying like you can't be more complex. So self-defense is a big part for me, because I've had to deal with learning more about self-defense, whether I really wanted to or not. So to me, there's like a lot of things that I want to explore there. And it's like being a soldier, I feel like I have a life similar to soldiers that were in my family, but I don't get the acknowledgement and I don't get the respect for it. So even though I was a civilian, so I want to make the point about respecting this. I'd like to, a big thing for me is I want to make like a medal for survivors, that looks like a military medal of honor, because I feel like what I want is for this thing that's still being kind of ignored and normalized to actually become front and center and be respected. That it's like if I'm a woman, because I've interviewed some people that have had experiences like this, or it's just come up in shocking ways I wasn't even ready for. But if I'm a woman who's given my life to serve my country, and I can be sacrificing my life to do so, and then within my own ranks with what should be my fellow soldiers that look out for me, they're attacking me and they're destroying my life when I've already been giving it to serve my country, like
Yeah.
that needs to be really seen. So I actually wanted to make up one of the gateways to developing my character is I'm trying to make these medals. Like that's something I actually want to do, that would be even something I want to kind of make available, like for people to be able to have. If I could make that something I sell online, or I don't know. I wish I could really give it away though in like an honorable way or something. But like I think that there needs to be acknowledgement for the bravery and the difficulty it is to be a survivor. And I think that if I do it this way, it's like I'm giving myself a position of authority to say this is such, and to make it so that these people will be acknowledged. And I'm acknowledging myself, because I haven't had that and I haven't had support that I've needed. And I think that is the point. Like I'm kind of trying to be the change, I guess, even if it's like I'm making something in an abstract way. But I think
Yeah.
sometimes making a character can be more liberating, because I can control things.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's like the thing I can't do in my life, where it's all just kind of coming at me. But at least in this way, it's like I'm making it up, where the woman who has the knowledge is like what you actually needed, instead of just devaluing me because my figure is something that you have an assumption about. Like, what about my mind, and what about what I know, and what I know needs to be dealt with? Like, you're not addressing climate change. What about sea level rise? This is threatening my home. Like, I worked on all these things in the past. So also, like, even if I have a smaller body, like that doesn't even matter as far as being a leader is concerned, because it's all about strategies. And most of the time, even in like a larger context, if I were a giant guy, if it's in context to the whole big organization, you're nothing.
Sorry,
You're
I
just
want
like
to.
one little dot.
Yeah, I want to try and keep it to the writing, since that's what we want to focus on in this workshop. But yeah, you do raise some good points, and I think it's important to highlight the things that you faced and to be showing that off. And I think that writing is a great way to do that, and to get a screenplay made and to get a film made or a short film or whatever it is a great way to highlight some of the things that are overlooked. It's important. So
Can I ask
yeah.
a question? Clarify actually what. So this is specifically for screenplays. So if when you're asking me, because I actually have another project I'm working on that's more of an actual script for a film project that I did start a screenplay, which was for something kind of similar, but to raise awareness about sex trafficking in the Florida Keys and to connect it to like a corrupt politician's ring. So I'm doing like a crime caper, and I have my character that is like a citizen investigator that's based off of my being an activist and then finding out, like, basically kind of like going into the underworld. And she starts finding out like something's going wrong, like her friend disappears and she starts learning about sex trafficking. So I started writing scenes for that. I kind of, I guess, want to see an example of how maybe other people interact in the group, because I have some things that I do feel stuck on in that story, but I'm not exactly sure like how I guess I would address it in the group. So maybe if someone else wants to talk about theirs, I could kind of learn.
Yeah. So I saw you. When did you want to say? So my name is Joel, and I co-host this workshop with Willow. So
I guess I have something to work on, but I would like to say you are extremely well spoken, and I think you have great points. And also, like, we have like a severe lack of empathy in this world, and through media, people are able to like sympathize more and understand more. I feel like, though sometimes they're little dicks about it as well. It just makes them feel guilty. So, like, so I love your project, and I hope you go forward with it. I just hope you also take care of your mental health as well. You're important
100%.
too. You gotta take care of yourself.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's all. I love you. You're great.
Thank you so much. That means so much to me. Like, I can't even express it.
Yeah. No problem. No problem.
In the chat, I've sent a couple links. So this is our screenwriting workshop, which takes place every other Saturday, at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. British time. And then on the other Saturdays, we have the same workshop essentially, but it's more for novel writing and other formats of media, which is called Disability in Fiction. So the link for that is in the chat. And we also have a women's writers group. Again, the link is there in case you're interested.
Yeah, that one's tomorrow.
Yes.
If
Okay, so yeah, we'll come back to Little Red, and I think the Dani said you have a project. Is that right?
Oh yeah, I'm having a lot of trouble with the log line, I think, but
Okay.
I managed one. It's probably not good, but I did it.
Okay, do you want to post it in the chat and we'll take a look at it?
Let me just give this a cute little format thing. Genre, action, fantasy.
Is this the project that... Have we looked at this project in the workshop before, or is this a different one?
No. I just always make action fantasies.
Okay.
Series, logline. I'll just do this short little thing for now because I don't know the comps yet.
And you can just send the title and look, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, I did
Okay, so
it.
this is a
Okay, I'll read it out loud. I'll read it out loud. Yeah, it's a pilot. It's gonna be am I still here? Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
It's going to be like a half-hour pilot because I feel like it. And here's the log line. After her best friend falls victim to merciless angels creating monstrosities out of corrupted minds, a depressed girl enters a demonic contract to fight against them lest the victims are lost for good. But I don't know. Describing her as depressed girl, I want to like communicate that she's like depressed, obviously, but like depressed girl sounds so plain. Sounds so weird. But I guess I don't know if it's like understandable to read. I guess what I'm going for is that their minds are being corrupted by these angels, and they're sort of like, it's sort of like they're eating their emotions, kind of. I guess when we were talking about empathy earlier, I was like, oh yeah, that's what I want to do with my project. The whole like, I like lacking of empathy and like, you know, the harms of it. Anyway, I don't know, but in like a weird fantasy way, because I like that.
Cool.
Awesome.
So this is the one you were working on in your boot camp yesterday, wasn't it?
Yeah, in the TV pilot boot camp.
Yeah.
Yes. And so
Okay.
that's what I'm going to be working on, because he said work on something familiar and you don't have to like think too hard about it. And I was like,
Yeah.
well, I'm depressed and I like magical girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So does anyone have any feedback for this logline then?
I mean,
I could
it's okay if
try.
you want. Huh?
I could try feedback, I guess.
Yeah.
I
If you,
I
if
guess
you,
I had like
sorry, I'm getting interrupted just because I think Winner was going to say something.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
You go first.
I wasn't sure how it works. But I guess I had two responses to depressed girl, because sometimes I feel like stereotyped and like I'm trauma girl is what I call myself. So but then it's something that makes me feel bad and I like want to break out of it. But
Yeah.
sometimes I also feel like if you almost I just saw like another way you could use it though is like almost with humor and kind of owning it where you're pointing it out. Like I'll say that about myself to kind of be pointing out like, yeah, this is how you're treating me. So I know like this is my trope or the assumption you're making, or I'll own it or kind of make it like a bit of a joke, but it's like then I'm highlighting it. So it's also kind of helping to make relief about it. And then it sort of confronts people with their assumption. And then you start having to think about me being something beyond that. But so I guess I would just kind of think about maybe the way you use it, because you could play it up like if you're kind of conscious of that. And maybe you could like choose to, I usually will just look at how my feelings like respond to a label of something, and then feeling like it's limiting me, and then sort of how I want to like however I struggle with that to address it in myself, and then try to sort of articulate it. And it kind of almost is like loosening up the assumptions, but because it's like I want to show that I'm not just this depressed person, and I usually have an argument that I have to make even to myself that's like, yeah, but this happened for a reason. Like that's one that helps me. And sometimes people just struggle with it, and then you're struggling with something that's still like an imbalance or something else that's hard. But I just
Yeah.
feel like it helps me almost to deal with, I can feel ashamed, like I'm feeling depressed or feeling whatever. But so then I can almost want to counteract it. So that was just something that I was noticing.
Yeah, no, I understand. I guess when I wrote it out, I guess I was just more like thinking, like, yeah, I wanna make it obvious that like she's, you know, depressed, I guess. But like before, I had like empathetic girl, because like that's what my depression did to me, I guess. So when I think about her, I think of myself in a way. I don't like calling myself empathetic or anything, but it's like, yeah, I feel emotions all the time, and I feel other people's emotions all the time, and it's torturous. So, sometimes, like, I guess when I wrote her, I was thinking of myself, and so I'm just like, I don't know, depressed girl.
See, I think
Mhm.
I think you bring up a good point, because my issue is also with the depressed girl. That tells us absolutely nothing about her.
Yeah.
It tells us about the issues she's dealing with, yes, but it's not something ironic that would make the rest of it difficult. And depressed people can be anybody, all walks of life, all socioeconomic statuses, and a lot of depressed people, you can't even exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. What Joel said. It's the same with not just hugging. That like for many people, you can't even see that people are depressed. So, give us something else. Give us like I want to know more about her. What makes her either her unique or what Nacho likes to wants to see. He wants to see what's going to make this journey all the more harder. So absolutely keep. I don't know whether or not you should keep the depressed girl in there. We don't see you as depressed girl. You're a I mean, I assume all of us see something different, but like that is not how. If we had to give 100 terms to describe you, that would probably not be one of them. That's just something how you feel and you perceive yourself. So, what is some way that we can picture this girl? Give us something unique that we can picture about her.
Yeah, I guess. Aside, I came up with this idea yesterday, so I guess aside from me just being like, well, I want her to be depressed, I never really thought about like anything else because I guess for me, I don't know. Yeah, I guess that's just how I see myself. So I'm going to try to think of some things while we're here, but I guess this goes into, yeah, I should think of something. I know, like, I want her to be not just depressed. And I was wondering, like, what I should do about it. But I'm not, like, what would make her journey more difficult? I know, like,
I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that she's depressed, but just adding another word on top of it that tells her, asks more about their personality. So, like with Nacho, he said a paraplegic girl, a paraplegic woman. So we said, add something up. So we came up with what did we say in the end? Oh, we said it was a travel blogger, which tells us that they're adventurous. So it's a similar thing with you. Yeah. So adding another
I guess
adjective.
that makes me kind of. I had like an off the cuff idea to make her a sort of streamer, but I feel like if I put that in, it would be like, what? It came out of nowhere.
I think you need an adjective, something that describes her as a character rather than
Right.
so, an adjective rather than what she does. If that makes sense.
Our well, that brings up a good point. Like, we're kind of on the word depressed, but what if the actual problem is the word girl? A depressed streamer or like the travel vlogger says a lot about who that person is. So maybe a depressed, some other description besides girl, because that kind of tells us nothing.
Yeah, I was worried about the descriptor girl for the most part because I was just like, I had something else before, which was just like before because I'm describing like her actively like about to get into this contract with this demon instead of me being like, oh yeah, she's already in it from what I had before. So I described her as like a depressed magical girl, which I felt like gave a better idea. But I don't, yeah. I don't know if they're still in school.
Even if you did go with magical girl, I would think that you could get much more specific because there's such a vast realm to what magic can mean. So like
Yeah.
even from just different traditions like on Earth, but if she's somewhere else, like there could be a whole other like system So it would, like, I could even say, I don't know, like class 3 mage. Like even in Harry Potter, they did that
Yeah.
as just details about like the accolades of Dumbledore, right? But so like if you say something more specifically descriptive like that, it would give, then you'd have to think about the structure of like a society that's magical, or maybe a different tradition or someplace in the world. Like if I say, actually, like I could say something that would be more like an Indian reference, versus something that would be like a spiritual reference that's like from North America, like tribal peoples, or, you know, like there's different, or Germanic, like there could be different things you could use that would sort of be even more specific within the realm of whatever magic means. Or she could be like a caster or a sorcerer, or, you know, maybe even if you did want to use that for like your magical world. I think it's a good point, because, but I think when it was, like what she was saying before, it was more interesting to me that I was like, oh wow, it sort of made me aware. Look at the difference of just using these two words. And it is like, it gave me a picture. Like, I think it's good if you can almost do it like a brush stroke, like in a few strokes, I have a full picture of someone. And then if you, I think there's stuff you can still address with girl, but like if I want to do that, I'm usually dealing with like how people see me, like I mentioned ageism. So, but then I might kind of describe that or talk about it or give an example and show it in the world. But if you're just trying to do a snapshot of someone, I thought that was kind of a good piece of advice. So I just think you
Okay.
could maybe apply it and just think about, even if you're not going to do it when it's dealing with streaming or vlogging or whatever, like that would be more of a, I could apply that to like a science reference or something that just be modern day and easy to just digest in my context. But it takes me somewhere else if it's magical. But if it's just like magical girl or even depressed magical girl, there's sort of almost such broad words that they still are a bit vague. So it'd be cool if you maybe could make that even more specific to still have an impact, kind of like the one did where she was saying streamer. And I thought that did sound good, like depressed streamer, like blogger, or, you know, like that was kind of more grabbed my interest because I felt like my brain was putting two opposites together. And the other, I don't think it's not like you can't do that, but I feel like if you just say magical, I didn't do it as much. Like I didn't have the same reaction. So I just thought
Right.
you might want to think about maybe you could still develop that further.
Yeah, I think I like streamer because I like the thought of her maybe streaming her fights for like some sort of like outside validation or something. Like she turns to the internet for some sort of validation or
Yeah.
something like that. That's what I'm thinking now. And I just feel like, yeah, if you can't get any support from people in your like real life, your offline life, then yeah, you would turn to the internet, in which I have. Hello.
Right.
But yeah, I like that. Thank you. That was really helpful. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'll just go with streamer for now. I feel like it does paint a better picture, and like my mind went into different directions when I saw streamer. Therefore, I think that other people's minds will go into other directions too.
Can I ask a specific question now that I've sort of got a sense of this? Because I do have something I've been trying to figure out that is like really important, and it's a touchy subject because it's dealing with race. And
Yeah,
that's something
sure.
I want to address in my story. So,
Yeah.
one of the things in my Keys story, I've learned some things about what I didn't notice with my white entitlement by looking back at stuff that was normalized for like my friends growing up in South Florida. And there was a big difference with like the way people's lives went when we grew up on the same block. This area used to be segregated, but it's not anymore, but it's still like a presence. And there was a lot, that's part of why I was interested in like how is it that sex trafficking like basically became normal, or even sex working. But I learned all this stuff about like the hyper fetishizing of women of color in my sex trafficking class. Like it made me more aware of it, what we normalize every day. So I wanted to point that out in this Keys film. So I'm kind of moving it over because I also want to show like the threat of climate and sea level rise to the Florida Keys. and I'm sort of doing a similar thing where my character starts off with the environment and she's trying to raise awareness about that, but then it starts to be that it's not just about the environment being abused, it's like the women and friends she has and then herself. So I'm doing something to kind of tell my story, but I wanted to make it a caper. But the person who disappears, I've been thinking of making like it's her friend that's a woman of color, and I was sort of breaking them up so like different parts of myself and my creative interests were being represented by these two different characters. So I was thinking of making the woman of color be someone who's like kind of expected to go like she's really smart and she could go do something maybe in the medical field, but she wants to be an actor. I had something similar, but it was like you be an educator, but I wanted to be an actor. But I'm also an artist, so I have a fine artist background. So I was thinking of making like my character that I play or that I'm writing based off of me specifically, that she is an eco artist who wants to raise awareness about the environment, but does research for these things for the environment, and then she starts researching why her friend disappeared, and so she does like musical things and art, but now it becomes something else. And then the friend who disappears, I just described her. But so what I was thinking is having this scene where like I'm in Key West, and I wanted to have some things where I have things dealing with the ocean and the water, and so I wanted to have my character go spearfishing. And I think I was going to use it also as maybe a metaphor of like predators kind of like lurking in the water, but it's like while she's doing this other activity, there's also this stuff that's brewing in her life. So what I was thinking of was there's a woman who does braiding right off Duval Street, and I just wanted to see if I could film that and then have my hair be braided, because I think for one it's like something I just wanted to do in the past, and it made me think of Waterworld, and there is a reality to like not having my hair blowing in my face if I am like hunting in the water. So but now there's so much more that I want to consider about this because of the issues about like cultural appropriation and this painful subject about hair and like the pressure for women of color. And there was something too, because I started even get confused when I saw this show about Vikings, and I was like, oh, like Vikings had these braids? Like I didn't know. And I researched it. It's like, no, because I had never heard that about my ancestry before. And it's like, no, they're just inaccurate. It's not how it is. So it's really African. So that was something I was considering handling in like 3 different ways right now. So one thing I was considering was having my character just kind of go get the braids, not know anything about it, and basically sort of step on it, and possibly have her friend who's still there, like hasn't disappeared, like tell her off and like make her aware of her doing something wrong. The other thing I was thinking about was like just interviewing the person who does do the braiding, because they do it for anybody. Like I was trying to figure out how to handle this. So I was also thinking about it being more like an initiation moment where she explains her story, and or I mean, I could stage it, but I was just going to actually see what the real woman would be saying. And then I thought, though, of maybe having something where I talk about this issue, or actually that woman like talks about the issue and says something to this person who's like ignorant about it to make them aware of it. Or the other option, I was thinking of just like not touching it because it's too painful or something now, and maybe just like have just braiding my own hair, like French braids, and sticking something on my head and hoping it doesn't blow off. Like, so that was something I'm trying to decide. And I was thinking of doing surveys on Quora, because I want to, part of the point of this is to bring up the difference of like white girl, black girl. Like there was something I wrote down in my journal about that difference in our lives. But there's also been a lot of like bitterness, and I've had like friends that really kind of backstabbed me and hurt me because they were angry about basically my being white. And it's just been a big thing. Like it's been a lot in my life, and my cousin is like half black, and we've had issues where he was like throwing things in my face, but he also didn't care about me when I was being targeted as a girl. And I felt like it was just really hurtful. And I also felt like he was rejecting his white side, and I was like, we still have the same ancestors too. And so it's just something that I know, like, there's a lot of pain for a reason. I have my ancestors, some of them were slave owners. I didn't used to even, like, there was a family reunion at a plantation house. So I'm just trying to, I want to like bring a lens to racism, but I don't want to do it in the wrong way.
Right. So like specifically your problem is sort of like you don't want to like demonize either side, right? Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, I want to not be inconsiderate. Like, I want to be aware, how would this be, what would be the better option? Would this be harmful? Would this be too inconsiderate? Is it important if I make that on purpose, like a choice, then that's addressed in the film?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like if you do things on purpose to make like a point, I think that's fine. Yeah, it just has to be acknowledged as like this is sort of wrong, you know? But I think that asking other on on Quora is a good start, or asking people here to maybe be sensitivity readers or something is like a good start when you write something, because they'll be able to point out when something is like inconsiderate or like inconsistent, etc., all that stuff. I think that, yeah, asking other people is a good step instead of like just, you know, doing it on your own sort of thing.
Should I try the two main because the third option is basically I just don't have the scene. So the two options really of having the scene, should I try writing it out where like my character does something without realizing it and then is told how it's offensive, or should I do it like, because I've had times where I've sort of been initiated into traditions with people and someone else might have an issue with it, but they taught me, and like it was like because of this group that brought me into it. So I've wondered about, is that something that could be kind of a gentle way to deal with this, or like it's a responsibility to be aware of this? Like, I'm just trying to figure it out because this person does do this. And it's something that in the past, I just wanted to like get to have my hair be braided one day. And I thought I would do it so I could go in the ocean, not have my hair blowing around. And I didn't really, you know, and then I've learned more about, I'm kind of glad I never did it. I mean, I just didn't have money and I was like a kid, but I want to be conscious of what that means. But it's like, this is a real thing that's actually on Duval Street and they just do it for anyone. So I just wanted to be aware of this. And I think I'm not clear enough about how that would affect people. If I should would it be worse if it was like an initiation thing? And like you really just don't have the right.
I want to interrupt just because we want to try and keep the just because I want my disability to be. Sorry for any background noise.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry. I want to try and keep the topic on disability.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
There's a women's group tomorrow though, like around the same time as this. So like you could talk to them about it, and we could all talk about it there. I'll be there too.
Okay, sorry, I didn't think about it enough.
No, that's okay. And if you want, I can DM you about this issue as well, because like I do have something to say. But anyway,
okay,
back to disability. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for it.
Yeah, thanks. I guess I had like.
I'm going to
What? I had like I was sad today. I was very sad today, and I had like a question, but now I'm like, well, I'm not that sad anymore, and now I'm embarrassed of the question.
If you want to ask, feel free. If it's about disability, feel free to.
It is.
Yeah.
It was sort of like I had like this internalized ableism moment, I guess, and I was like having like just a lot of insecurities about my writing, and I was sitting there like, if I'm like, shouldn't I be good at something if I am disabled? And that was my question, and I was just having a moment. Like, I feel like
should you be
Like,
good at something if you're disabled? Is that what you said?
yeah, like because I'm disabled, I should at least be good at something. It was like a moment of just like, I don't know, just intense insecurity.
Okay.
I
What's
kind of
the-
have an
Go on, Willow. Sorry, we keep interrupting each other.
sorry, Joe. I kind of have an answer for you. Do you have to be good at something? No. Do you need to enjoy something? Yes.
Hmm.
Do you just to have fun or have activities that you enjoy doing? You don't have to. Oh, the birds are loud outside. You don't have something to enjoy it.
Yeah, I guess
So-
I sort of, at the moment, I felt like I'm not really good at anything. And like, I was pretty insecure about my writing. I was just like, I can't get this log line right. I can't write at all. I'm bad at writing and I can't do anything right.
Right.
So it was like that. And it was just like, but I'm incapable of most things. So I'm sitting here like, I have to be good at something. I guess.
Well, we really don't care if you're good at something or not. We just love you. You don't have to be good at anything.
That's sweet. Yeah, I was just wondering if anyone like ever felt that way, I guess, or if I'm just crazy and ableist.
No. I can definitely say as if the need to have a purpose, but also like the need of to earn love, to earn appreciation, to earn the right for people to help you, or kind of thing.
Yeah.
I call it internal ableism, yeah, and it can be really depressing when you can't earn something that never even needs to be earned to begin with. And I'm right there with you. I feel that.
Yeah, I guess it happened when I was writing this log line and I was just sitting there like, what if I have nothing to say? Because sometimes I feel like I'm a little too stupid, and it might be because I've always thought I was a little too stupid, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, when I was writing the log line, I was like, I'm trying to have like this message, but it's like, why do I have to think so hard about it? Shouldn't I just know? Shouldn't I just know what I want to say? Do I have anything to say at all? Like, does anyone want to hear me say anything?
Yeah.
And so like, I just get weird about it.
I want to hear you say stuff. I like hearing you say stuff.
Thank you. Yeah. It was a sad day last night. It was a sad time.
I'm so glad you're here. You've just like verbalized things that I don't even know how to say for myself. And I feel this pressure, like I had all this pressure to be this big achiever. And then it's like, I feel all broken down and people still expect me to be the same. And it's a lot of pressure, and it was not really fair, the pressure in the first place, feeling like I had to prove that I was good enough to be high ranked or whatever in school. And I think that was its own kind of damage. So I think that's true for everybody, that we deserve to be here because we are here, and that you're important because you're alive and you're a person, and it's amazing. And you've already vocalized things really well by just being yourself. And you're not even thinking about how you're being authentic. And I think even what you said about feeling like you're not sure, it's like almost that argument for, do I have the right to be here? The way you just vocalized that, you could just write that down. It was like cathartic for me. So I feel like other people reading that, probably no matter who they would be, Because even if you're like in the top of the hierarchy and you're still feeling the pressure to hold on to that and to prove something about yourself, if you're like the quarterback of some big NFL team, like I think that everyone could identify with it. So I think what you've just said was actually really kind of powerful, and maybe that's what's enough, because I feel like, who am I to try? And I feel like I feel pressured, like I don't want to even try and write down a lot of these things because I'm still trying to even decide what is it that I need to write about, and I feel ashamed and like I don't want to say that, but I feel like people don't see things and I still feel held back by them, I guess. And
Yeah. No, I get what you mean. I end up not like putting my feelings into my work because I'm sitting there like, I don't know if anyone wants to hear that from me, or if like I want to hear that from myself, or I don't know how to articulate this, but like, what do I need to be writing? Kind of
right.
thing.
You need
Yeah.
to write what you enjoy. I have a lot of issues with my insecurity, and I am so preoccupied. Well, is this good enough? Is this interesting enough? Is this something, it has to have a plot. The characters have to do something. And because I can't come up with what they're doing, well, then that means I'm not a bad writer and no one's going to like, that means I am a bad writer and no one's going to like this and no one's going to be entertained. And that's just our inner voice. I watched a video yesterday and it was about like writing insecurities. And the key thing is, screw what anybody else thinks. Are you enjoying it? Is this something that you would like to watch? Is this something that you would like to read? Then go for it and write it. Screw everybody else, whether they like it or not. Is it something that you want to watch? That's all that is important. And yeah, so you have your own style lasagna. I love the whole magicalness of it. And you have actually at least written stuff. You have completed some stuff, whether it's good or not. You've actually completed stuff. I can't complete diddly squat.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating. So screw what everyone else thinks. Just write what you love. Write because it makes you happy.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. I like what I write because it makes me happy. But like, I guess outside validation is good too, you know? I guess that's what I want to show through my character at that point. Not that outside validation is good, but that you don't need it. And I know logically I don't need it. But my head is just like, no, logic is bad. What are you talking about?
I'm here with you. All right, so it's getting close to time, and I had something I wanted to discuss, and honestly, it's more brainstorming. And Lasagna, you brought something up about your mermaid's wheelchair kind of thing, and so like I'm thinking of two fantasy races, and I'd love to brainstorm what kind of disabilities would they have. One of them is the mermaid, so I'm glad you're already ahead on that, and I want ideas. The other is a centaur. What kinds of disabilities might they have, and how would they deal with those disabilities? And for the record, I want them to be more physical, like you can see that they are disabled or it has a physical impact. But other than that, I'm open to, I want a variety. I want something unique. So, any ideas?
I'm thinking. I'm not sure. For a mermaid, I guess, like, maybe they're kind of like eels. Maybe they don't have arms. I don't know. I don't really know. I'm not too knowledgeable about like a bunch of disabilities that like could correlate with fantasy creatures.
Well, that's the thing. That doesn't need to correlate. It needs to be realistic in that world setting.
Right.
Let's see.
I had an idea about sea turtles, if you might be interested. I don't know.
Okay, what?
Well, I was volunteering or trying, I was going to maybe work at the Sea Turtle Hospital in the Keys. And there's this problem that they have. It's more specifically their shells, but also with manatees when they get hurt by boats. Like the propellers do a lot of damage and it kills a lot of them. With the sea turtles, they would be different, but I figure because there's something more specific that happens if it cracks their shell and they get an air bubble and it can kill them and they can like float to the surface. So there's ways they treat it by putting like these cement circles to hold them down, and it's really fascinating actually. But if you were doing something with the ocean, like it also makes me think about like with manatees, they get big scars and they can get chopped into. So it kind of made me think about if there was a fin injury, especially if usually you might have the two sides of the fin because it's what controls you in the water. So if you had damage to that, it could make it harder for you to steer. And like if you didn't have one of the fins, that could cause an issue when it comes to being able to push through the water or navigate, but especially could make the movements more lopsided or circular. But then to have to adapt to that could be an interesting thing. Just like when people use their feet instead of their arms, like you were saying, if they lost their arms. But I guess for a mermaid, I would think that what would affect them the most would be their fin.
Right.
Okay, yeah. I think, but the one thing I had imagined was a like, I don't know what kind of a wheelchair you had imagined, Lasagna. Like I was picturing okay, you know how in the Little Mermaid, King Triton, at the very beginning, King Triton is in a seashell and is being pulled by a couple of dolphins. And so I was thinking of some kind of that, and it's called a shell chariot, shellariot, shell chariot kind of thing. And that's how the character gets around. But I haven't actually, I don't know, I haven't actually written him yet. So
Sometimes
then I'm wondering
when
if
I
they're all.
think of
Yes.
when I think of like a mermaid on the surface in a wheelchair, I guess for me, for my mermaid, I'm thinking of, you know, your average everyday wheelchair with some modifications. But then I'm like over here sometimes when I'm like, well, the mermaid needs water, so a fishbowl. Around on a fishbowl.
Right.
Sometimes I like thinking about that.
Well, that would all
Mhm.
depend on your world building. Do mermaids need water to survive or not? Because I don't think Ariel actually required water to survive. She was up on the beach and she would come out of the water and she seemed to breathe just fine. She didn't seem to dry out. So that
Yeah.
is that you may need to address. Definitely if they have to stay wet, it'd make it a whole lot harder. And
Yeah, you gotta moisturize.
yeah.
But yeah, like I don't know, for your centaurs, I do like this wheelchair idea, and I do think that maybe they have like with all their limbs, like maybe it's like some are underdeveloped or something. It's like an underdeveloped kind of thing.
Underdeveloped.
Yeah.
I like that. It's a good point. Yeah, I like that. I'm trying to go with I don't know, with us humans, we have so many different disabilities. Every single one just seemed completely unique and has different effects, and therefore has a unique way of dealing with it. And so surely centaurs, I mean, they've got even more body parts, or mermaids, or any other fantasy creature. They probably have a variety of health issues and disabilities as well. And by the way, this picture of the two centaurs, that was just Google images. But I still love it. I don't know who created it, but I think it's very clever and it works. And I wouldn't have no idea how to describe that in a in a screenplay.
Oh yeah, I guess I wouldn't know, but I feel like there's a specific word for things like this, but I just don't know. Yeah. And
Yeah, no idea.
yeah, like they're fantasy creatures. It's like a unique disability could be among them, and everyone has a unique disability. So, like you said,
Yeah, I
so
do like these senses.
anything.
Yeah, I like I do like the idea of an underdeveloped limb. I think that's a good one.
I think, well, if I'm assuming we're in paradise, right in front limbs, if that's the case, like, they might not be underdeveloped, they might actually be like when the nerves or the muscles aren't being used, they waste away. So it might actually be worthily developed, but they've just shrunk because the muscles are weaker and aren't used. That might be what it is.
Yeah, I would imagine that well, I guess it's like they'd be using their legs all the time, right? Unless this is
yeah, a horse would use their legs at all times.
Yeah.
That's something big.
Do horses sleep standing up? I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, so they're literally on their feet all the time.
Shrink or anything. Yeah, their legs wouldn't shrink or anything unless like they're not using their arms or something. I don't know. But for a fish, let's see. Something could happen there. I do like the thought of underdeveloped limbs. Like some of them just, come out like that. It happens. And then for fishies, I'm not sure. Like, I feel like it could be more of like the dangers of the water and like how more mermaids are getting injured and all that stuff. Because like there's a lot of shit in the water, right? A lot of monstrosities, really.
That's true.
So like it could be more like it's dangerous down there. People are getting hurt, and like it. Like maybe they have a bunch of scars on them. Maybe like some of them got their little eyes poked out, or some of them like, oh no, my arm's missing. But it
Mm.
kind of just seems like it's a very dangerous place in the water. And while like it's dangerous above the surface too, I'd imagine like a centaur would have an easier time navigating around and like defending themselves with like their powerful kicks and shit. But other than that, yeah, I think that like some of them would just come out a little differently. But for mermaids, it's like this was just they were attacked or like as like a child or as like an adult or whatever. I don't know. That's like all I can really say because I'm unsure what else.
I just thought of tridents, like maybe they could have a battle injury.
Yeah.
So for the centaurs, they're farmers. They are a group of farmers, or rather, it's a herd. But yeah, they farm fruits and flowers, and their farm burns down. So now they need to leave and find a new home.
I am wondering something. Like, do you just want your main characters to be disabled, or is it like a lot of people in the community are?
In this case, I'm thinking 2 of the family members, because I'm just brainstorming kind of thing, and this herd has like 20 members in it. They are all a family unit, and they're just another member of the family.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. I guess one of them could just have underdeveloped limbs, like I said, and another one could be blind.
Okay, that was my thought. That was my thought for the second one as well.
Could be blind, yeah. And then you can ask for my help, and I will help you. But,
And you know
yeah, I guess. Huh?
Just I will. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I like the underdeveloped limbs. But I still don't know how. I love these wheelchair designs. No idea who created them, but I don't even know how I would begin to describe those in a screenplay.
Oh, we should have that as a picture prompt one day, and put it to the test. I think we're going to stop the stream here. The meeting on Discord will continue for as long as you guys want. But if you're watching on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, or Facebook, this is where we depart. Unfortunately, I'm there. You'll be able to find the link in the chat in just a second. As soon as I remember where it is, I have lost it. No.
We mostly talked. Well, we talked a lot today, but a lot of it was about our feelings instead of like what Connor was describing. Like they analyze characters and screenwriting, all this stuff.
Yeah. So for those who only, I'll read the official description. But my voice is going a bit for some reason. The Disability in Screenwriting Workshop is a place for all writers, whether you're disabled or able-bodied, to gather and talk about disability in screenwriting. This group meets to discuss disabled characters and how to make them more three-dimensional. Participants analyze characters throughout cinema and TV, as well as practice exercises to build new characters from scratch. So yeah, that's the official description. If you're interested to come and join us, we will be here next week on WordCamp, which is our sister server, for Disability in Fiction, 4 p.m. British time, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. And you can find the link here in the chat. And yeah, thanks all very much for joining us, and we'll see you next week.